国科会 BioAsia 开幕暨国际精准健康智慧医院高峰会正式开始。Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and all of our distinguished guests and all of our audience on YouTube channel live stream broadcast. Good morning, welcome to BioAsia opening ceremony and Global Precision Health Smart Hospital Summit, hosted by National Science and Technology Council. This is Wendy, your host for today. In the past 2 years, the influence of COVID-19 has changed the patterns of medical health service, but has also demonstrated the strength of Taiwan's precision health industry chain. To strengthen ecosystem, NSTC has cooperated with the experts from well-known smart hospitals to share their experiences and viewpoints. So it's our pleasure to welcome the expert of patient safety, Professor Bates, and expert on digital health indicators, Mr. Andrew Pierce from the US to join us today. Through this summit, we look forward to learning more related experiences from other countries and also discovering new opportunities for the precision health industry of Taiwan. Ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning, please join me in welcoming the Deputy Minister of National Science and Technology Council, Dr. Yizhuang Chen, to deliver her opening remarks.
Professor Bates, President Pierce, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Yizhuang Chen. I'm the Deputy Minister of National Science and Technology Council. Now, on behalf of NSTC, I would like to welcome you to this very exciting summit. Now, 2023 is a very special year. Now, the whole world has gone through a really big pandemic that we have not seen before. Now, through this pandemic, of course, it damaged severely the world, but it also brings up lots of challenge and opportunity. For example, precision hospital and very importantly, precision health that will bring up to starting from the prevention, the diagnosis, the treatments, and the healthcare system. That's why NSTC has been actively investing the innovation and research in biomedical technology this time. So since 2022, NSTC has integrated several very important hospitals in Taiwan, and also with the IoT technology, with the hope that we could develop small hospitals and also to obtain more international cooperation. So this morning in this exciting summit, we are pleased and honored to have local and international experts that could share their insights on how to seek global operation and opportunity. So I would like to, in closing, thank you all for attending and wish you, just like me, would enjoy today's forum. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Yizhuang Chen. Please remain on stage. Please stay on stage for our group photo. Thank you for your encouragement. And here we also have so many digital medical experts today, so I would like to welcome our distinguished guests to join our group photo. Please welcome, first of all, Professor David Bates, Professor of Medicine of Harvard Medical School. Please come on stage. Thank you. And of course, please welcome Mr. Andrew Pierce, Vice President Analytics and Global Advisory Lead of HIMSS. Thank you for participating. And of course, please, we will welcome Professor Youzhuan Li, Distinguished Professor of Taipei Medical University. Thank you. Next one, let's welcome Professor Ba-Chun Wang, CEO of Joint Commission of Taiwan. Next, let's welcome Professor Chonghui Lai, Professor and Vice Superintendent of Linkou Chang'e Memorial Hospital. Welcome. Last but not least, let's welcome Dr. Andrew Xu, Director General of National Science and Technology Council. Welcome, and thank you for your coming and support. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let's take the first group photo. Please look to the front. All right, this is the first photo, and the next part, let's do the thumbs up gesture. You know, this is a Taiwanese traditional gesture, which means really successful and awesome. Yay. All right, and the next one, let's do the third photo. Just like you may cross your arms in front of chest, like show the profession. Yes, just like an expert. Cool. So we wish the event's really successful and build up ecosystem of healthcare industry. Wow, thank you. All right, now thanks to all the experts. Now you may return to your seat. Thank you for joining us. And we, through the group photo, we wish today's summit very, very successful. All right, and after the happy photo part, the next session will be the first presentation of our summit today. In this era where AI and IoT are well developing, smart hospitals have become the trend of healthcare transformation. However, we need to think about one question. How can we take these technology advantage of technology to improve medical quality while protecting the safety of our patients? So today we're honored to invite Professor David Bates, who is known as the expert of patient safety, a professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School, and also a consultant expert for Newsweek, which is on the list of the world's best smart hospitals, to deliver his presentation, Digital Transformation of Care and Becoming a Smart Hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Professor Bates.
Dear Deputy Minister Yi-Chuang Chern, ladies and gentlemen, and the NSTC, thank you so much for having me here. And it's a great pleasure to be in Taiwan again. I'm going to talk, as was just discussed, about the digital transformation of care and becoming a smart hospital. I'm going to start by telling you about what we've done at Brigham and Women's Hospital. And then I will tell you about what Newsweek considers a smart hospital, and then I will wrap up. And the first two things are not exactly the same, but the criteria about becoming a Newsweek smart hospital are very specific, and so I'm going to go through those for you. Now, at Brigham and Women's Hospital and Mass General Brigham, we started with an internally developed computer system. Which was very good, and our doctors and nurses really liked it a lot. But what we found was that we couldn't keep pace with all the domains that were needed. And we had many legacy systems that did not interoperate or talk with each other. And an example of the things that we could not really do ourselves was put in place clinical documentation both inside and outside the hospital. Especially for clinical documentation outside the hospital, we waited a long time to put that in place. But the U.S. put in place legislation that gave hospitals very big financial incentives to have those things in place, and the result was that we had to go with a vendor system. And because of that, we implemented Epic in 2016 across our whole network. Epic is the most widely used vendor in the United States. Now, we have about 10 hospitals in the network. All the hospitals and clinics in our system adopted Epic, and that was a very positive thing for data exchange. Now, when you go from any one place in our network to any other place, it's essentially the same to look up the information for a patient, and that in itself is really a valuable thing. The immediate adoption went well, but I would say there were not enough resources dedicated to making changes in the system after we put it in place. So there were some things that were quite annoying as a doctor for quite a while. For example, where I was actually practicing, they made a mistake about where that was, And for my visits to be billed for the whole first year, every visit I had to make a change. That was a little thing, but as a doctor, you could imagine that wasn't pleasant. Now, in terms of electronic functionalities, we elected to go with a different laboratory system than the Epic system, but we went with Epic in all the other main areas. And anytime you choose to use one different vendor for any part, there are likely to be some problems. And we did, in fact, have some issues with interfaces and moving information around. Now, all the documentation is electronic, both inside and outside the hospital. We have a great deal of clinical decision support in place, and that's very important for improving safety and quality. The decision support, we've done very well with our internally developed system, and the decision support we have now does not work as well as pre-Epic still, but we're making regular advances. Some of it works actually particularly poorly, so doctors get about one warning for every 2 medication orders that they write, and they're not very happy about that. But we have approaches underway that will let us get to a better place there. You also need to put in place implementations and innovations to make work easier to do for providers. So I would say after you implement, it's very important to go through, figure out what things your providers are having problems with, and then make changes to deal with those. Telemedicine is a place where we made a lot of recent progress. We had almost none before COVID. And then when COVID started, we switched everything to telemedicine overnight. And not surprisingly, at the beginning, that created some problems. Many patients couldn't figure out how to use this, and many of our doctors couldn't use it, and our systems crashed early on. But gradually, that got quite a lot better, and now both providers and patients are really used to telemedicine. I would say we're still learning about when best to use it and when to avoid it. Some specialties like sleep medicine and psychiatry use it almost all the time now, actually. But others like nephrology, because they have to dialyze patients, use it much less frequently. It's also really important to refine tools around this to make it easier for providers and patients. And many of the workflow issues are not addressed. One thing that I find particularly annoying is that it's not exactly clear whether the patient is going to be in the waiting room or whether they're in telemedicine. And sometimes I have spent time wandering around looking for them when, in fact, they're waiting for me to do a televisit. So that's a simple practical thing, but we haven't worked it out perfectly. Digital imaging has been a big win. Essentially all our imaging is now digital. We have a fabulous database of imaging studies. Those can be used for many purposes, including innovation. And our radiology team has built an approach for identifying studies with an important abnormality, which is called anchor. And that has been extremely useful because in the past we would have a study that showed some important abnormality that the provider maybe wasn't expecting, and sometimes those didn't get followed up, and that is a really serious safety issue. So now, if the radiologist identifies something like that, it's noted, and the doctor who ordered the radiograph has to acknowledge that. And often we recommend the next test to do if there is one. And this has resulted in very high levels of follow-up, nearly complete follow-up, which we did not have in the past. If you look at order entry adoption by imaging modality, this slide just shows it for all the various types of modality. You can see that it took us a while to get to complete adoption. We had early adoption in the 2000s, then broad implementation right in this period here. And then finally, post-implementation, essentially all the imaging is digital. In terms of artificial intelligence, our big needs are on the data side. If you want to make this work routinely, you need large databases which are routinely accessible. And Epic does this very well for data that are collected once a day. but there are many pieces of information which are collected minute by minute or even more often than that, and it's not very well set up to handle that. You also need tools to get the insights to the right provider, and that is quite challenging to do still. Most of the wins so far in radiology, for example, in mammography has been really terrific. So it's made the reading mammograms about 10 times as fast. There are many fewer callbacks, so women are much less often asked to go back because of a possible abnormal mammogram. And there are more similar rates of abnormalities between readers. It used to be that we had pretty wide variation in that, and now everybody knows what everybody else is doing, and people move to the norm. We need to expand this to other clinical areas, in particular to improving operations. Robotics is maybe the least well developed of these areas at Mass General Brigham, but it's present in many niches. So it's used widely in certain types of surgery, like prostate surgery, gynecology. It's being expanded to others. It's used some in pharmacy, but there are lots of other opportunities for this. And the evidence base that this delivers value is the least strong for these 5 areas. If a single Da Vinci robot, for example, costs about $2 million, and it's not clear that the outcomes are better with that. Some other things that we've done that have resulted in improvement. One is to identify high-cost patients. So about 5% of our patients account for half of the overall spending in our system. And the first step, if you're going to manage the population, is to identify that group. You need to include data about mental health, socioeconomic status, and marital and living status, because all those factors have a big impact on how much someone costs. In fact, roughly half of this group has a significant mental health issue, and many times that's not being addressed. And it's also really important to identify specific actionable needs and gaps. If you do that, it can make managing these patients much more effective. But we have been able to reduce costs for this group. This just shows some data about reducing the number of admissions for this population. New technologies are also really important. I've worked with a company called EarlySense, which built this device down here on the left that sits between the mattress and the bed, and it can measure the patient's pulse, their respiratory rate, and tell you how fast they're breathing, but it doesn't ever touch the patient. Then you use a little bit of artificial intelligence to go through that data and notify the nurse if there's an important abnormality that's found, like if the patient's pulse has gone up, or if they're not breathing fast enough, or they're breathing too slowly. And this has been really effective. We studied this in a medical surgical unit in one hospital in the Los Angeles area. And we showed that it reduced the length of stay spent in these medical and surgical units, but more notably, it decreased the length of stay in the ICU that patients had subsequently, and it decreased the number of code blue events by 86%. So it really did make care safer. In addition, there were only 2 alerts for every 100 recording hours, so the nurses weren't being bothered by this all the time when there was nothing going on with the patient. And some of the monitors that we use more routinely today, like pulse oximetry, telemetry, and cardiovascular monitors, have these very high warning rates, between 160 and 730 alerts per 100 hours. Innovation in the elderly is something that is also a really big issue, especially in this part of the world. There needs to be a major focus on helping people stay at home. This is especially critical in China, Japan, Korea, where population is aging. There are a lot of companies that have done interesting work on building smart homes, notably Samsung and Mitsui, and that can leverage the Internet of Things, involve things like smart refrigerators, which will let somebody know if you don't open the refrigerator door for a bit, or smart pillboxes. And computer vision and radar can be used, for example, for fall prevention. There also needs to be work on designing new places for the elderly in particular to live that have services near patients, and the sensing revolution is something that's going to change things. There's so many sensors that are becoming available today. So I would say, to summarize about Mass General Brigham, this is a work in progress. Things have kept getting better. It's really important to invest in infrastructure like how to enable the use of artificial intelligence, especially in real time. And the data resources are especially pivotal. Ingesting data from outside the system and then making it useful inside the system continues to be a challenge for us, particularly clinical data. I was talking with some of the other speakers about this before. I think that's a challenge everywhere, and we need to do a better job with moving information around, even if the patient is not spending time only in one system. And at the end of the day, I would say it's critical to enable innovation in an ongoing way, as we don't know what technologies will help most. And there are some others that I haven't even mentioned today. So next, I want to spend a few minutes with you on the world's best smart hospitals. This is a joint effort of Newsweek and Statista, and I've been a consultant to them around this. They've had this global board of experts that helped develop the hospital survey. You can see who these individuals are. It's been really a pleasure working with them, and we provided the methodologic input for this ranking. So here's a summary of the methodology. Smart hospitals use state-of-the-art technology to fundamentally rethink how care is delivered. And as I noted, Statista and Newsweek partnered to identify these hospitals. The most recent edition of this awards the 300 leading hospitals in the field of smart technologies. They came from 28 different countries. There are three main steps in this. There's an international online survey, an international hospital survey, and then there's desk research for every nominated hospital. The 5 categories that they focus on are electronic functionalities, telemedicine, digital imaging, artificial intelligence, and robotics. That's why I went through and told you about what we're doing in those 5 areas. During the last survey period from June to July 2022, there were over 4,000 votes for smart hospitals, and a score is calculated for each hospital. So this just goes into a little more detail about how the score is calculated. There's the international survey, that's 5% of the score. There are international recommendations, which are half, and then there are national recommendations, which are 45%. Here's more detail about the process, which is focused on enabling the use of digital technologies directly from the hospitals. So hospitals are invited to participate in this online survey. The survey results have to be validated by an authorized position in the hospital, like a managing director or senior management person. And these are the 5 categories which I mentioned earlier. And participants have to respond to at least 3 of the 5 categories. You don't have to be doing something in all of them. And the top 300 list includes smart hospitals from 28 different countries. I would note that Taiwan only included 1 hospital so far, and from spending time here previously, I know that the number should be much higher than that. So we hope that more hospitals from Taiwan will be applying in the future. I think this is one of the places that's most advanced in IT in the world. The recommendation survey generated over 4,000 votes for smart hospitals, and again, recommendations constituted 95% of the reputation score. Every nominated hospital is then reviewed through a rigorous process. There's quality assurance via desk research, and this process is intended to ensure that the awarded hospitals have a leadership role in this space. Here are some examples of the top hospitals. So Mayo was number 1, and they were particularly a standout in artificial intelligence and robotics. Mass General also got a very high score, so did Johns Hopkins, Cleveland Clinic, and the Mount Sinai. You can see Cleveland Clinic was doing good things in artificial intelligence, and Mount Sinai was doing good things in digital imaging and artificial intelligence. So to wrap up, you know, the end goal is to make care better for patients and families and providers. Digitalization is not an end in itself, but it can help achieve the above goals. If you're going to do this, you have to have a plan in mind. It takes time to achieve it. You can't do it all at once, and it's counterproductive to try. You should measure your performance as you go. Some things, like data exchange between organizations and making that information useful for providers, are tricky and it will really take a while to work out. But at the end of the day, I think that digitalization is going to make care safer. It will help improve quality, it will reduce costs, and it will improve the experience of care for patients, families, and providers. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Bates, for your wonderful presentation, which gave us very useful information to know how to keep and improve the safety of our patients. And just from what Professor had mentioned, to become a smart hospital, there are actually many aspects to be considered. So, which indicators can be used for the evaluation of digital health level of a hospital? Next session, let's invite an expert on digital health indicators from the world-renowned Healthcare Information and Management Systems Society, HIMSS, of the U.S., Mr. Andrew Pierce, who is also Vice President of Analytics and a Global Advisory Lead of HIMSS. Please welcome today, and today he is going to share about the topic, advancing the sustainability of global health system through digital health transformation.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister Chern. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having us here this afternoon, almost. So it's a real honour to be here today, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking a bit about how you build a sustainable health system through digital health transformation. It's a bit about me. I look after our analytics business in Asia Pacific, doing a number of wonderful projects across this region, including here in Taiwan. And Taiwan is doing some amazing things using technology, and is a real leader in the region as well. So it's a great honour to be here today and to be working on many projects in Taiwan. I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to do a quick introduction. I'm going to talk a bit about what we're seeing around some of the future trends in digital health transformation. I'm going to talk then about how we're supporting transformation, a little bit how to navigate this digital health ecosystem, as we call it, and they're going to talk about a couple of case studies, some advanced digital adoption, if you will. So HIMSS, just a few minutes on HIMSS. HIMSS has been around more than 60 years. It's a global organisation, a not-for-profit, and our vision is to realise the full health potential of every human everywhere, and we do that by reforming the global health ecosystem through the power of information and technology. We're a member-based organisation. We're really privileged to be working in over 50 countries. I think that number's closer to 60 now, supporting the healthcare of more than 830 million people, and with more than 67,000 healthcare systems and organisations. We're member-based, we're about collaboration and sharing, and again, it's a real privilege to work with HIMSS in this regard. HIMSS, how do we work? Well, very quickly on the top of the page, you've got our forums where we bring knowledge, whether it be from our proprietary evidence, whether it be through our government relations teams, or whether it be from the community. We then help providers and government, pharma and technology companies through our services, our conferences, our media, our membership and our workforce development. Again, it's all about evidence-based knowledge to drive the ecosystem. All right, so that's enough about HIMSS. Let's talk about what we're seeing. So I think we all know that certainly during COVID and the pandemic, we really had a light shone on some critical challenges facing healthcare. One is around ageing populations with complex health needs, the challenge of equity and inequity in access to healthcare, the challenges around workforce sustainability, the use of technology advances that perhaps haven't always delivered the outcomes in a sustainable way that we would like. And there's never been such a time when there's been such uncertainty and disruptions, whether it be from lockdowns, but also from the threat of cyber security incidents, etc. It's certainly a changing and challenging time for healthcare. But where is healthcare really at in terms of responding to these challenges? Well, disappointingly, I think most health systems across the globe are still really planning what they should do and have made some small progress. Patients still feel that there's still limited personalised and patient-enabled care being provided, and clinicians continue to be challenged by the tools they have that don't really align well to their digital clinical workflow, and they lack some training. Some would say that we're in this fourth generation or fourth evolution. I'm not sure it's a revolution, but of healthcare. We're in this digital health era, if you will, and the digital health era really is around being person-centric. It's about being wellness and lifestyle focused. It's about engagement in digital society, and it's the use of IoT. It's this next this generation that we're focused on delivering now is very different from the previous generation, which is around building EMR. We're beyond that now. We need to focus on digital health, and that's how we've solved some of the challenges we've talked about. Now, I don't need to talk about Newsweek, but I thought I'll acknowledge Professor Bates and the Newsweek team. You can't talk about smart hospitals without using a smart hospital definition from Newsweek, so we've already talked a bit about that, but certainly the key points to note around a smart hospital, as Professor Bates mentioned, is it needs to be fundamental rethink. It's not about digitising the current. It needs to be about information sharing. It needs to be a focus on care delivery outcomes and efficiencies. And as importantly, it needs to be around health goals that are around prevention, population health, and quality of life. That is what digital health is all about. Now that I've used Newsweek's definition, I guess I'll come up with HIMSS as our evidence-based definition of what is this digital health fourth generation, if you will. For us, we call the digital health ecosystem one where people manage their health and wellness with the support of health teams. Our research that we've built up made it very clear that if you're following the evidence, there are 4 fundamental building blocks to build this ecosystem. On the bottom layer, no, it's not working. On the bottom layer, you've got the governance and workforce. That's okay. I'll do without the pointer. It's okay. On the bottom layer, you've got the governance and workforce capability that needs to be built. And that looks at things such as data stewardship. It looks at privacy. It looks at security. It looks at workforce integrity and training and governance. The second layer that you need to have to build an ecosystem robustly is to have interoperability. And that means you need to be able to mobilise data and exchange data across the journey of care, no matter where they are. The third layer is analytics and traceability. And this is where you transform data into knowledge and insights and outcomes. And then the fourth, top of the pyramid, if you will, is where you have the digital capacity. And that is where you have individuals that are meaningfully connected to providers to manage health. And that is the building blocks of a digital health ecosystem. That is what digital health, the fourth generation, if you like, is. And this is how we build a digital health environment where people manage their health and wellness with the support of health teams. So these are the building blocks that our research has said is fundamental to achieving population health and wellbeing. So how do we support smart hospitals, but not just smart hospitals, all healthcare providers participating in the ecosystem to navigate the future? At HIMSS, we provide two things really. Well, we provide more than two things, but I guess what do we provide? We provide some guidance by driving the health IT market in the direction it needs to go to achieve this digital health ecosystem. That comes from a number of our maturity models. We have an analytics maturity model, we have something around continuity of care, we have infrastructure, we have imaging, we have EMR adoption, and recently in April this year in Chicago we released the CCOM, or the Community Care Outcomes Model, which provides guidance for those non-acute settings that deliver a vast majority of the healthcare for people in our populations. So each of those maturity models are built up based on our best practice globally to provide guidance. And we've also developed and had rolled out since 2020 our digital health indicator. And that tool is not a maturity model, but it provides some guidance on how a health system achieves this digital health ecosystem. That pyramid of components that we talked about, it provides a really, really good tool to guide you on that. So I guess in summary on it, these tools help provide where you are, so evidence of progress as a hospital. It helps you measure the capacity of what you need to invest in, and it also informs your strategy. So it doesn't do your strategy, but it provides some really good guidance on where you are and where you need to go to. All in all, so you can achieve this digital health ecosystem. As Professor Bates talked about, and I guess we would like to emphasise, you need to advance digital transformation by advancing outcomes. And the framework that we use around that is the quintuple aims of healthcare. And why is this important for smart hospitals? Well, it's important because you need to build the evidence to help smart hospitals gain investment and measure progress that is outcomes driven. That is how you get a sustainable healthcare system, and that is how you build this digital health ecosystem. So I guess as an example, improved patient outcomes, digitalisation helps because outcomes are tracked in real time. You get improved patient experience because you can have care anywhere and it's around health and well-being. You have lower cost of care outcomes by having proactive and predictive care that keeps people well and therefore less costly. And you have improved provider experience by providing point-of-care solutions that automate work environments. All of those digitalisation and outcomes need to be focused on ensuring equity. So we believe that it's important to build that evidence to ensure investment. And how do we do that? Well, we use our Office of Scientific Research to really gather that data and evidence that hospitals need for that investment. We're doing a number of studies right now, one on the impact of digital work environments on the sustainability and quality of work life of the health workforce. We've got participants from South Korea, the United States and Canada. We're in discussions with the health systems in Australia to participate, as well as in Taiwan to participate in this particular study, which is looking at the impact of digitalisation on workforce. We've just completed a study getting evidence on linking quality and safety outcomes to digital maturity with the Leapfrog group in the United States. And we've completed, back in 2021-22, a large-scale analysis of safety and quality, operational efficiency and patient experience outcomes for Australia, United States and Canada. So I guess my point is that we know that it's important for smart hospitals to invest in digitalisation, but they need to have evidence on the outcomes they're going to be achieving by doing that. So we're building that evidence base right now to help ensure priorities are invested in. Okay, so that's enough about the theory. Let's talk about who's a couple of case studies who are doing in this region some wonderful digital transformations, and we'll talk a bit about their journeys. So the first one I'd like to talk about is the Hospital Authority of Hong Kong. That is obviously it's a public health system. They operate more than 43 hospitals across 7 clusters. They have a very large, I guess, footprint to deal with. The key point there also is that they've had one CMS. They have one clinical management system running across all of Hong Kong for all of their public health. Their strategy, so what was their strategy? They said a very, very clear strategy around what they wanted to be digitally. The first was to provide smart healthcare. They wanted to develop smart hospitals. They wanted to nurture a smart workforce. And they wanted to enhance service supply. So that was their goal of how they're going to be a smart environment. But setting some goals needs to be implemented. So how do you implement it? Well, they implemented their smart hospital strategy at a cluster level. So they have 7 discrete clusters, and they let each cluster, I guess, agree and manage the implementation of that strategy. This is one example, which is the Kowloon East cluster. They started this journey back in 2017. So a smart hospital journey is not one that is achieved overnight. They've been doing it since 2017, moving through, I guess, various levels of maturity and adoption. And that's the point I'd like to make. And it's very much clinician-led, technology-enabled. It's not technology-enabled first. It's very much clinician-led. So what does it mean to them? What does this smart hospital term mean to hospital authority? Well, smart hospital for them means connected data and technology. For them, they wanted to enable robotics and AI assistance. They wanted to enable wearables, IoT, and also the widespread deployment of AI. And there's just some examples there of what they're doing around robotics and the use of AI. But smart hospital also means having connected patients who are managing their health and well-being. So they implemented a wonderful application called HA Go, which enables patients to manage their care plan, see their clinical records, engage in teleconsultations, do home care, self-measure and do PROMs, and also do drug delivery. So they have one application for patients and their families to manage all of their healthcare needs within Hong Kong. I guess the point about that, I guess, is the comment that it's not just about providing information, it's around empowering them to manage their own health. That was a key part of it. It was about health and well-being, not about episodic care management. What does smart hospital also mean to them? Some of the critical enablers for them, I guess, was around sharing and exchange of data through one CMS and sharing it through HA Go with the patients and families. Having very protocol-driven care products based on a patient's particular conditions, and have AI-driven, data-driven care where possible. And the example I show there is they've been doing artificial intelligence projects for many years, but it hasn't been as fast progressing as they thought, because as Joanna, Dr. Pang, the CMIO there, is quoted as saying, for them, there's plenty of solutions you can come up with for AI. You can come up with plenty of ideas and use cases, but the challenge is to really identify ones with the engagement of clinicians that tackle the key issues and really work closely with the clinicians to make sure they actually work and provide value. And they've just a couple of examples there they have around use of imaging for AI and around hepatitis B reporting. So for them, the key message was all around, it's good enough to have the data and the use cases, but you really need to work hard on ensuring that you're working closely with clinicians. At HIMSS, we're very pleased that HA is working closely with us, getting recognised as being a leader in transformation. They continually measure themselves against our maturity models to get better, and really participate actively in the region and globally to share their knowledge around how we can all become part of this ecosystem. My second example is going to be Samsung Medical Center in South Korea. For them, smart hospital meant to be the frontier of future medicine. So what is that? Data-driven personalised medicine, AI-driven predictive medicine, and 5G-driven connected medicine. And their strategic plan is there, patient-centred, focus on critical illness, using cutting-edge intelligence, having a cluster approach, and having a network approach. So for them, again, this has been a journey. They rebuilt their HIS and infrastructure in 2016, 2017, completely rebuilt it based on this objective. And for them, they wanted to have a really clear focus on value. In this instance, it's around customer satisfaction, quality data, etc. And that to be informed by the future technology platform, not the other way around. I guess similar to HA, you've got to have the outcomes in mind first and then use the technology to help drive that. They've got some wonderful technologies there that they use. Some of the most impressive around AI, etc. Their smart robotics for delivery of drugs across the hospital is just phenomenal. If you want to see the use of robotics at scale for efficiencies in a hospital, everyone should visit Samsung Medical Center to look at what they're doing, because it is truly remarkable. What does it also mean for them? For them, it was better use of outcomes for ER, using AI was their key use case that was driven from clinician engagement. So this was their showcase, I guess, for the use of AI. Again, it was very clinician-led. It was solving a particular problem they had with the ER, with their clinicians in the ER, and is certainly a great achievement and really demonstrates what they try to do. Again, Samsung, they continue to be recognised based on the HIMSS measurements as one of the best digital health ecosystems in the world. They continue to collaborate globally with HIMSS and others, and we're really proud to have them as part of our environment. So I guess to wrap up, I guess there's 3 points I made today. One is there are problems that we need to respond to in healthcare, and we believe that a digital health ecosystem provides the framework for adapting and responding to those challenges. And as I said, the fundamental building blocks are required to be addressed. You need evidence and focus on building the evidence base so you can have sustainable outcomes and investments in technologies. And there are certainly some wonderful collaborations and exemplars in the region that everyone should be working with to share knowledge. And I think in that way, we can all reform the global health ecosystem and achieve the full health potential of every human everywhere. So thank you.
Right. Many thanks to Mr. Andrew for your remarkable presentation, to give us many practical and inspiring cases and many useful contents. Frankly speaking, recently the widespread application of AI and ChatGPT and even biomedical chips has further promoted precision health. However, to boost the development of the industry, I think just to rely on hospital is not enough. So we need to collaborate with international partners to build up the ecosystem of precision health. So that's why we conduct this summit. We need to gather all the experts to discuss on this topic. So next part, to deeply explore these issues, we invite some experts to come on stage and let's have a deeper talks. First of all, let's welcome our moderator. Please welcome Professor Youzhuan Li to come on stage. Professor Youzhuan Li, who is Distinguished Professor of Taipei Medical University, as well as the President of International Medical Informatics Association, EMEA. Please have a seat. All right, and now let's welcome our panelists following. Please welcome Professor Bates, our previous speaker, and of course, Mr. Andrew. Please come on stage once again. Welcome. And of course, we have Professor Bashun Wang, CEO of Joint Commission of Taiwan. Welcome. Please have a seat. Let's welcome Professor Chonghui Lai, Professor and Vice Superintendent of Linkou Chang'eng Memorial Hospital. All right, last but not least, let's welcome Dr. Di Hao Wang, Deputy General Manager of Technology of Everfortune AI. Please have a seat. All right, and now I would like to hand over the time to our moderator, Professor Lee. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, maybe. Now we have about 35 minutes to discuss a little bit about precision health and smart hospitals. But we do have a very distinguished group of panel, ranging from the Joint Commission, HIMSS, Harvard University, Chang'an Memorial Hospital, and one of the most promising AI company, new startup. So we do not have much time, but we have many experts. So I would like to delegate most of the time to all of you to express your opinions or feelings about these topics. So I was given a task of dividing the panel into two different parts. So the first round is to give the opinion about precision health of the future, and that will be for our local panelists, the three of us. Let me start with Tony on my left-hand side, Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang is also the chair for the Joint Commission in Taiwan.
Okay, so I'm very happy to have this chance to attend this opportunity. So what I want to say is that right now, government's policy of Taiwan is very clear. Precision medicine is one of the most important policy of Taiwan. But I think that at the beginning of this booming, we need to be very careful to set all the course on the right direction. So right now, Joint Commission of Taiwan, we are doing several projects with Ministry of Health. Want to accredit all the biobank and the IRB, and also the LDTS, we call the laboratory developed tests. Most of them are genetic tests. So I think it's very important to set the rule of game before we start to develop the so-called precision medicine. Because the reliability and the test accuracy, from my perspective, I think we are still at the very infant stage. Many tests are not been well validated, so we don't know if this is really helpful to patients. But at least at this point, we can prevent the harm. So we want to set up this rule. That's what we are doing right now of Joint Commission Taiwan. We have been working on this for almost 3 years, to work on all the precision medicine regulation side. Thank you.
Yes, it's quite important to have a guidance and regulation in order to further develop the and there was a new law that's been discussed in legislator Yen recently. How about Dr. Lai?
I would like to share of how Chang'an Memorial Hospital is prepared for the precision health for the future. Next. Maybe the international experts do not know very well of Chang'an Memorial Hospital. Chang'an Memorial Hospital was established in 1976. And it is now the largest and most comprehensive healthcare service in Taiwan. We have 9 branch hospitals, and we have over 10,000 beds. And we serve 8.2 million outpatients and 2.4 million inpatients. And the surgery is like 167,000 a year. Next. Our vision is take from society, use it for society, and imperfection and sustainable management. And our mission is focusing on medical care, teaching, and research to promote humanity, technology, teamwork, education, and innovation. Therefore, next, we are prepared from 2000 till now. From 2000, we tried to digitize our medical records, and the phase 1 achieved in 2016. We passed the HIMSS 6, and the phase 2 achieved in 2019. We passed the HIMSS 7, and now we're prepared for the more advanced smart hospital. Next. And I think we are the first hospital past the HIM ERAM stage 7. It is recognized in 2019. But we know we have many challenges. We need to progress. We need to be in the role of improvement. Next. Therefore, I think precision health is the trend must go, and we can use it to improve diagnostic. We can use it to improve treatment and also prevention. Therefore, we have to build the ecosystem, the basis for collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. So a little bit about precision health from Dr. Wang.
Okay, thank you. I also prepared a slide, and let me introduce myself a little bit. I'm a radiation oncologist and now serving in China Medical University Hospital in Taichung. And I also joined a startup, Everfortune AI, which is a medical AI company founded in 2018. So I'm invited because I can represent for the industry. However, my company doesn't do much about the precision health, and we do a lot of AI things, and I will share my experience in the next topic. And so my perspective on precision health will be most in the clinician aspect. Okay, next please. I think precision medicine is all about a selection, how to select the right molecular, the right patient for the right treatment. So we have many information gathered today, and all of the information will become a feature space. And so the problem will be the algorithm. What kind of algorithm? You can use the statistic, you can use the machine learning or AI to translate the features into the insight. And the insight will help you to better select the patient for their most suitable treatment. Okay, next. So I think precision meet AI in oncology field is the perfect match. We have the data, we have all kind of image data that Dr. Beth said can be used in a screening, can be used in a diagnosis for cancer, and also the prognostic prediction. And all of the information will be a very strong guidance for the treatment and lead to the personalized cancer treatment. Okay. So I just organized some value and gap and some challenges for the patient, clinician, industry, and payer. Due to the limited of time, I want to emphasize that precision medicine is not only benefit for both patient and clinician, but also benefit from the industry. Take example, the pharma company can very specific to choose the patient cohort for a certain drug, and then to reduce the cost of the clinical trial and to increase the success rate of the clinical trial. Next slide. And however, I think the challenge remains for the data diversity and representativeness. From the publication, we saw that almost the genetic data are from the white, from the Caucasian, Europe, and some of the middle-aged population. However, the Asian population is very scarce, and the black ethnicity is very scarce. And in the AI world, it is the same phenomenon. We can see all of the publication data from US come from just 4 states, and maybe a majority of states didn't come to contribute any data for the AI publication. And I think this is ridiculous because you cannot rely on the AI and just use so scarce of the data origin. Okay, next slide. And China Medical University actively participate in the precision health by joining many programs led by the government and the MOST, and we have developed our own genome panel for all the patient and the sub-health populations, and they can know their genetics information better. And I hope that kind of endeavor will be shine in the not a long future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wang. Well, actually, precision health and precision medicine, this has to be a very long discussion. Even if we dedicate all 35 minutes, it will not be enough. So this is only a slight taste of what precision health and precision medicine will be about. But apparently, the panel already raised the important question that how would we regulate it? How would we have a guidance or ordinance around the research, and also the how do we implement that into our hospital? And the lack of data, because when we're implementing precision health, we are mostly based on Western data set. So I think Taiwan, as well as other Asian countries, need to contribute more to the public database, or else we're always using the Western data, because all the open databases are mostly from the Western world, right? And a lot of research, of course, are from the Western world, but which is not good actually for implementing precision health in locally, right? But unfortunately, I have to move to the next topic, which is smart hospital, which is kind of today's main topic, because Andrew and David already gave us introduction of the key factors and trends of smart hospitals. So the next question is towards Andrew and David, and also to Tony, about what your recommendations of implementing smart hospitals in Taiwan. Let's start with David.
Sure. Thank you, Jack. I think it makes sense to just do some of the things that Andrew and I talked about, and I think we don't know exactly what the most important domains are to focus on. Newsweek currently has 5. I don't know that those are necessarily the most important ones. But I think that Taiwanese hospitals need to pick a direction and start to march on it. I think that there are some other areas like the Internet of Things, which is not considered in Newsweek's current set of recommendations, that are likely to be very important. I found the example of what the Health Authority has done to be a really good one. They have picked a number of topics and then just gradually advanced. I would hope that it might be possible to advance a little more quickly than they're advancing in some areas. But I think the biggest thing that Taiwanese hospitals need to do is just to decide that this is a direction that you want to move in, and then begin to go forward.
Thank you, David. And Andrew?
Thanks, Jack. Thank you so much. I guess, yeah, there's 3 things that need to be done, I guess. First of all, it's a real focus on outcomes for everything that's looked at and adopted. You need to look at capacity building, and you need to look at measurement and prioritization. So what do we mean by that? So outcomes, the hospitals need to look at outcomes. So do we have the evidence, and can we build the evidence on where we're going to get the best outcomes for the adoption of technologies? And we need to have a really solid plan for that. And I talked a little bit about that in my presentation. That's the way of creating a sustainable investment. Capacity building, again, our research says we have those 4 important planks: governance and workforce, interoperability, predictive analytics, and person-enabled health. And those are the areas to invest in and to look at as a priority for all smart hospitals and non-hospitals, to be fair. I was really pleased to see the work that the Ministry of Health and Welfare is doing around the next generation HIS here in Taiwan, really promoting a highly interoperable sharing of data platform, and that is at the centre of this digital capacity building that we're talking about. So I really enjoy the work that James and the Ministry of Health and Welfare are doing in terms of providing guidance there. And the third thing is around measurement and prioritisation. You can't know where you need to invest those scarce dollars that you have unless you measure yourself about where you are against best practice and then identify your priorities that way. So those are the 3 points I'd like to emphasise, Jack.
Thank you. I think that's very practical. And Tony?
Because we Joint Commission of Taiwan, we accredit all hospitals in Taiwan, and we hold national smart hospital competitions every year in Taiwan for right now more than 7 years. So we are quite familiar with all the so-called level of digitization in Taiwan. So I would say the digitization, the level, I mean, Taiwan is quite been undervalued because the National Health Insurance is an initiator for Taiwan's hospital. They need to go into the digital form to get a reimbursement. But you know, to some point, the National Health Insurance becomes a constraint for Taiwan's hospital because there is a huge gap between the big hospital and the small hospital in terms of the resources invested to the digital transformation. So one word I like to say, because this is quite a big topic, you know, so I can just use a very short phrase to conclude my comments, is that I think all the smart hospital, all the digital transformation, you know, must stem from the process reengineering, must meet all the need for the clinician and the patient. So that's the point of the smart hospital. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. You actually did a very good summary of all the 3 panelists. So we start with a focus. We need the focal point. We need to have a focus to start with the smart hospital development, and then we need outcome, and we need to focus on not the process, of course the process, but then the outcome, and the user experience, patient experience, provider experience, and it takes time to accumulate data for the outcome. Because I've also reviewed, I helped Tony review some of these smart hospital projects. Many of them just showing, oh, we can do this, we can do that. But that doesn't mean it actually benefits our stakeholders, and in what way, to what degree. So what we really need to do is to accumulate outcome data. That would actually get us to local smart health competition and international smart health ranking as well. Yeah. Okay. So I have the final question, which is for all the panelists. But if you feel something that you have to say, you can still use this time to do it. So the final question is about an overall possibility of having a so-called cross-border or international collaboration to advance the ecosystem of smart hospital precision health in Taiwan. You can do either one or both. I mean, precision health versus smart hospital, because we're very short period of time with 2 very big topics. So yeah, it looks like Dr. Wang has something to say. Let's start with Dr. Wang.
Yes, I want to share my opinion on how to build a smart hospital. Put in short, I think the hospital should find a good company and collaborate with them. All of the hospital want to do their own AI, their infrastructure, and in my opinion, I think that's it's less efficient. For tech, US, for example, we have Cerner, we have Epic to provide the infrastructure, and we have all of the AI companies which produce and design a very good AI. So I think the major job for the hospital is to adopt and to validate its efficiency and its benefit in the clinical world. So I can share my experience as a radiation oncologist. We have 5 centers across the world, across the Taiwan, from Hsinchu to Tainan, and we invited Varian, which sit over there, the machine, the company to build a radiational linear machine, and they have set up a new cloud application to gather all 5 hospitals' information together. So today I can easily assess the patient treated in a Hsinchu and can tailor the radiation plan for him. So I think that's the key to success. Work with company, especially the Taiwan company. Thank you.
Okay, that's an interesting question because you know, even when I was a student back in 1990 something, there's always this build versus buy decision, and it looks like in the U.S. hospitals, most of them have moved from build to buy for some reason, and it's quite expensive too. But then most of the, especially major teaching hospitals, university hospitals, they have mostly moved from build to buy. Even they've built it for like 20, 30, 40 years, but they still mostly moved to the buy options, just like Dr. Wang has already said. David, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, I was a big fan of building for much of my career, but I think for improving care across the population, you really should buy, as was just described. Otherwise, you know, you just end up having too many different things, and you can't make a big difference. For my last comment, I would just say I agree with the focus on outcomes. That could be safety outcomes, it could be patient satisfaction, it could be making people more efficient. We're doing some very exciting AI that relates to pregnancy outcomes right now, and predicting which women will have serious complications around pregnancy. The biggest barrier to doing that was just getting a very large database of women who were pregnant. Once we had that, you know, it's been much easier to move forward.
Yes. Now, maybe Dr. Lai, Chang'an Memorial Hospital is probably a very exemplary success hospital in terms of build your own system since many years ago. It's been quite successful. So how about your opinion about this build versus buy option?
I think standardization and harmonization is the most important for us to build real-world data to validate what we thought this is good or not. If we want to convince the clinician, we use this AI and this will benefit the patient, we have to show the evidence. Therefore, I think the digital health data set have to be harmonized. Then we can collect a big real-world data retrospectively and prospectively. Because in this era, the precision medicine is using a biomarker, a targeted therapy, and the approval is usually based on a small number of patients, and this accelerated approval have to be validated by the real-world data. And this is our opportunity to do prospective real-world data collection, not to use the phase 4 study. The phase 4 study is exhausting, it's costly, and it is out of time. We should build up infrastructure to share, data sharing, and we can have this Taiwanese real-world data, and we can do a lot of work.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lai. Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the key in having a really good health, precision health infrastructure. You know, I have advised our national health insurance to open all their data, but they never listen to me. Maybe Tony can talk to them. Okay, and then Andrew?
Thanks, Jack. I think to be successful, I just want to really, emphasize this point of collaboration. We've talked, it's been used by a number of us already, but there is collaboration happening to progress well on this precision medicine or precision health or digital health transformation, whatever you want to call this journey we're all on. Collaboration, and it's about getting involved. There is really good collaborations happening in this region around evidence gathering, around outcomes, as we've been talking about. There's some really good collaborations having around sharing knowledge. And that includes with Taiwan. I mentioned the example of the Ministry of Health and Welfare in Taiwan with its next generation HIS, looking to collaborate internationally on how they can implement that at scale, learning from others. So I'm really pleased with that. The NHIA's Family Physician Portal project that is underway. Again, they're looking to collaborate internationally and learn from others to make that project as successful as possible. And health systems here in Taiwan are very advanced, and they want to share their knowledge too. And I'm really pleased that Chang'an Memorial Hospital, CMUH, as two examples who are out there in the global ecosystem, sharing their knowledge, looking to advance. And I guess my point is that Taiwan is participating in this collaboration. We could all do more, I guess, to advance the ecosystem.
Thank you. And then Tony?
As I mentioned, precision medicine, telemedicine, smart healthcare are prioritized by Ministry of Health. It's an important national policy. In the past few years, I think the industry and the healthcare community have put much pressure on government. And the Taiwan's government, I think, is very responsive in terms of the deregulation. Okay, but fairly, I like to say, when we deregulate, how about the quality of the research? How about the investment of all the individual facility, university? I don't think they have done enough to push or blame all this slow development to government. So collaboration is a very good idea, but I think everybody have to think if this right now is already the moment to talk about the collaboration. So how about the quality of the research? Where are your papers, your research? All the government has done, have yielded very little or frustrated outcome. So far, I can tell this everybody.
Okay, well, I think I think collaboration is still quite important. Even if we think we're at the beginning of some endeavor, we still want to learn from people. Of course, when we're in very advanced stage, people can learn from us. But in terms of precision health, recently there's a legislation about stem cell in the legislature again. Some people are against it, some support it, but my only point is we should support it if they're willing to share data with each other, because it's only useful when everybody start to share some data. I mean, of course, the identified data, but when we build a database of stem cell research, then we can start to advance so-called precision health development in Taiwan. If everybody is doing their own secret projects, that's not going to help anybody else, right? So I think that's a collaboration internally and collaboration internationally. One way is to be willing to share. If you're only learning from others and you're not willing to share what you have, then there's no collaboration, of course, right? Okay. So I think that kind of moves us to the third stage. We have a few more minutes. So I guess we have more than 1 or 2 minutes for each panelist, and you can create or you can say something as a take-home message to our audience. So maybe I'll just start with my right-hand side, and then we'll go by this order. Okay, Dr. Wang.
I always appreciate the ACR model, which is the American College of Radiology model, that put the industry, healthcare professional, patient, and the hospital together and draw it like a cycle. So the unmet need from the clinician, from the hospital, will generate and transform into a device, an AI algorithm, and then use back in the hospital and to validate its efficiency and its benefit. So I think that Taiwan is very promising, and the industry and the hospital can collaborate together, and then we can collaborate to the worldwide with the institution like NIH, like Harvard Hospital, Harvard Medical School, and then to do something really great for the human life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wang, and then Dr. Lai.
I think that we need a governmental precision health initiative to be a constant working agent to facilitate this goal. And also, I think data sharing have something to do with the confidentiality, the private, this need the government to resolute the concern of the society. And also, I think I want to strengthen the harmonization and standardization has to be done to facilitate the data sharing mechanism. And then we can do a lot of precision, digital health research and innovation and implementation. And Taiwan can be the leader.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. And David?
I'd just like to put forward the vision that Eric Topol included in a nature paper that he described. And what he talked about is when you're seeing an individual patient, the vision should be that you should be able to bring together all the information about that patient, including their genetic information and their past medical information, and maybe even information from things that we're not thinking about now, like information from videos or what the weather is, and bring all that together to figure out what the best treatment is for that individual. That means having certain data resources around and building those. But I think if you start from that vision, it leads you in certain directions. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And then Andrew?
I guess there's probably three things, right? You need to, everyone in the ecosystem needs to build capacity first, right? So everyone, whether you're a hospital or government, you need to identify and build digital capacity. Now this is where we have this, people are managing their health and well-being, right? With support, not about providing episodic care. And we talked about the fundamental building blocks of that in my discussion. So you've got to build capacity first. Everyone participating needs to measure and prioritize. You can't just make it up as you go. You need to really actively measure where you are and prioritize your next investment and ensure you're getting the outcomes. And the third point, you need to collaborate. We're all in the ecosystem together. You must collaborate both in the country but outside the country.
Thank you. Tony?
So we are at the center of a very important era. So it's very important to see the whole smart healthcare in the global view and have total strategy to decide the direction of the development of the smart healthcare. Thank you.
Okay, great. So before we adjourn, we have about 10 minutes that we can interact with the audience. So I would like to invite questions from the audience. Go ahead. Do we have microphone for the audience? Yes. And you can ask in Chinese or English. Either way will be fine. I can translate.
Yeah. I'm Dr. Wen Xu. I'm currently working in the National Health Research Institute in Taiwan, and I have been working in the hospital for 3 decades. So I got one question to Professor Bates and one to Andrew. So when Ronnie stepped into the digital transformation in the hospital, always two strategies. One is top-down, one is bottom-up. So in your experience, what's the most challenging part in the top-down as well as in the bottom-up?
Yeah, I think you have to have some of each because the top doesn't have all the ideas, but if the top does not really support building digital infrastructure, you just won't ever get there. So I think that there has to be a combination. There has to be strong top-down support, but you have to then listen to the ideas of all the people in your organization.
Yeah, Andrew, the question is outcome and the patient always the center of the digital transformation. So in your experience in Hong Kong and Korea, have then invite patient or family to join this kind of digital transformation?
Yes, they have. And I think Hong Kong is a really great example where we did our initial measurement of their transformation maturity in 2020 during the early stages of COVID. And one thing that came out of those discussions was they're all focused on outcomes that weren't necessarily focused on the patient experience. So keeping them well, keeping them at home, engaging with them in a really strong way. And that wasn't really clear to them at the start of the pandemic. They were just trying to provide enough beds to support and look after the patients. They then evolved their engagement with patients and families through the HA Go app that I talked about to really change the emphasis from coming to hospital and getting episodic care to really using our data and our knowledge to keep you well at home, your family and your patient and the family. So I think Hong Kong was a great example of the fact that they identified they needed to change that model and have actually really implemented it quite well. I think Korea, I think they still have some way to go on the person health and well-being component. No disrespect to some wonderful healthcare systems in Korea like Samsung, Asan Medical Center, etc. They are starting to share and collaborate data across Korea more, but that is still a work in progress, and I know they need to do more.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Our time is to 1:10, right? 10 past 1,
Time's up.
right?
No, it's time's up. Time's up.
Time's up. But on my screen it says 10 past 1. Okay, that's okay. If that's the decision, then...
Or maybe one more?
Okay, okay.
Okay, one more question.
One final question. Although somebody says time's up, but we still have one question after time's up. Maybe, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we have talking about buy or build a solution, but for buy, Taiwan don't have a company like Epic or even Cerner. So in the future, how could, for Epic to provide a solution for Taiwan, there are many barriers. One is price. Second is the integration and the culture. For example, in the BWH, that spend 1 year chaos to make it smooth, and this situation could be worse in Taiwan. So, can we initiate a talk between the EMR vendor of Taiwan and Epic to have some link to speed up, to accelerate the buy solution for us? Thank you. What's your viewpoint?
Okay,
David?
that would be for David. But before you say something, I would have to say, unfortunately, all the EMR vendors in Taiwan are quite weak. They don't have enough market size, and each of them only got a few hospitals. So many of them are medium to small size company, and they do not earn enough to invent the next generation. So they're always stuck with the status quo, and so are the hospital that they're serving. So it becomes kind of a vicious cycle, and that's where we're in. That's why if you want to build the state-of-the-art, you have to build, versus buy. In terms of the EMR, EHR.
So I think this will be an international thing, and that you'll eventually will have to make arrangements with some international company. I don't have any particular love for any of the particular companies, and they all have their strengths and weaknesses. But I think this will be an international thing, and the notion of just doing this with a bunch of small companies will not take Taiwan to where it needs to go.
And it appears that on your slide, it took Brigham and Women 10 years to go through the journey of Epic integration. Is that no?
No, that was misleading. So
Okay.
we did Epic implementation within about 2 years.
2
Yeah.
years. Okay. Yeah. But it takes time. Okay. Do you want to add something, Andrew?
I don't think I don't have a particular view on it. I think there is a real difference in Asia, in particular, having homegrown, locally developed applications versus, say, the US, Australia, parts of the United Kingdom, etc., which are using vendor applications.
Right.
There is a real difference. Now, it is about having enough sustainable business operations or opportunities for those vendors to invest in new countries. It's certainly very rare for the large vendors to go into countries like Taiwan, etc. Now, which is best? I don't know. We're doing a study right now. I mentioned it briefly, between South Korea, the United States and Canada, and hopefully Australia as well, looking at the impact of the digital work environment on clinicians. Does Epic, for example, which is one of our systems, one of the healthcare systems in the US that's participating, versus Samsung, which is their in-house developed, which way has actually provided the best environment for the clinicians to operate and provide the best outcomes? We're doing that study right now to maybe provide some evidence to answer the question that we're all pondering. As an ex-IT developer, I have no particular view about whether we build versus buy, but I think the evidence that we're about to gather from this study globally on workforce impact will be extremely revealing.
Okay. So I think, like Singapore is going for Epic, right? Singapore.
They do it. They already use Epic across most of their healthcare system.
Right.
Not all of it. There's one cluster that doesn't, but most of it uses Epic.
So they're kind of doing an experiment internally, right?
Well, maybe that's right. Like I said, it's Epic. Epic, obviously, Epic is a wonderful partner of HIMSS globally, but Epic chooses its markets, and it has a small number of markets it invests in at the moment, and it's not in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think that comes to the final conclusion. I think build or buy, they both have their advantages. But I think no matter you build or you buy, outcome is still more important than just the process. I think too many hospitals in Taiwan, they're trying to build something just to show that they can do it. But that's not enough. And that's probably not a good investment when you try to build everything repeatedly, and then every big hospital are doing images, every big hospital are doing medication. That's probably not a good idea. So we need to have some focus. And once we have focus, we need to show the result and the outcome in papers, of course, so we can gather and attract international collaboration. When you really have something to show, then people come in and collaborate with you. Or else you're just begging, not collaboration. All right, so I hope that this panel satisfies the audience, and I hope the panelists will also enjoy the session. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now let's give up once again for all of our panelists. And before we officially put an end to the panel, may I invite all of you to take a group photo at the end of the panel. Okay, once again, it's a really special occasion that we can gather together and exchange our ideas. So ladies and gentlemen, please do the thumbs up once again. Okay, to draw a wonderful ending of this panel, and thank you for deliver your ideas and improve the developing of precision health and smart hospital. Okay, thank you once again, and let's give it up for all of our experts. Thank you. Please take your seats. All right, and our event has now come to the end. We sincerely thank all of our distinguished guests here for your strong support, and hope the summit will give you some inspiration. And after this session, next forum will conduct at 1:50 p.m. Yeah, we have another forum in the afternoon. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, here we're going to take a short break later, and we've prepared some refreshment at the reception desk. Now you may enjoy yourself. Once again, thank you for your support, and I hope to see you soon in this afternoon. Thank you. 好，最后呢，再用中文稍微的提醒一下贵宾，我们除了呢上午非常精彩的这个高峰会，在下午我们还会有另外一场的场次，也是延续上午的话题，所以呢下午2点钟我们的论坛也会即将开始，也再次邀请各位贵宾在下午2点钟也准时加入我们下午的论坛，谢谢。